So what do you think about the breaking news this week? And what do you think about the long delay? You would think there shouldn't be a delay in anything as significant and as important as this, right? Any idea what I'm referring to? Got nothing to do with politics. I'm actually referring to the seemingly unnecessarily long delay of the bridegroom that throws lots of people, especially these young 10 maidens in particular, into panic. Maybe that introduction piqued your curiosity about this unusual parable. We often think, if you've been to a wedding, we had one here yesterday, we often think it's the bride that's always late. But weddings 2,000 years ago were very different than they are today. And so after the contract was made between the groom and the bride's father, after one family elected or voted, you might say, for this marital arrangement to take place and to be sealed, the bride would stay in her father's house until the groom came to claim her and then to take her to his home. So there was always this delay after the choice, the election was made, until all the planning, all the negotiating regarding the dowry and everything else was completed. When everything was settled, then the wedding party would process to the groom's home and the celebration would begin, and it would last for days. And because all these arrangements took time, there was always a strong element of suspense and uncertainty and tension about the arrival of the groom. Was everything going to work out? So the realistic cultural image behind the story would have these 10 virgins in question waiting at the bride's house, safely inside, when they fell asleep and their lamps went out. They would have been planning to participate in the wedding procession that would carry the flame from the bride's family's fireplace to the home that she was going to share with her new husband. So that image of carrying light sheds light on this parable. The parable is about being prepared. And so taking the story at face value, we can guess that the wise virgins were the ones who knew and who cared about what they were doing. They were fully invested. They wanted to be part of the celebration, and they did everything necessary to participate fully. It didn't matter that they fell asleep. They all fell asleep, but they were confident that whenever it started, they would be ready and they would have no worries to interfere with their siesta and this long delay. What about the others, the other 5? What characterizes them as foolish? Well, in Matthew chapter 7, foolish people are the ones who heard Jesus' word but didn't bother to act on them. They heard the word, but they didn't do anything more about it. That sounds a lot like not bothering to procure the oil you need to relight your torch. In reality, the sleep of the foolish just might have been a sign of their general apathy. Their paltry preparation matched their lack of passion for the event itself. They were along for the ride, and if things got too costly or time-consuming, they could find other diversions. That's how they lived their lives. And so for Jesus, parables give a slice of life story. And in this parable, he includes a few improbable details. So for example, where would these other 5 go at midnight to buy oil? They didn't have 24-hour convenience stores in ancient Palestine. And why don't the wise ones share their oil with those in need? Why are they being so stingy? Well, one thing is clear. Jesus' purpose in telling the parable isn't to make a point about sharing or being charitable. He has something else in mind. If we want to hear about charity and sharing, we look elsewhere in the Gospels, but not here. So the parable is about being prepared, and being prepared in our relationship with God. That's what it's all about. But the fact is, we all lead such busy lives, and some things get put on hold. Unfortunately, life doesn't always provide us with lots of time. The question Jesus asks is this: when we need it, will we have the oil, the emotional and spiritual fuel to light our way, to see us through serious moments of crisis in our lives? Will we have enough oil to strengthen our resolve to make changes in our lives that are difficult and that we may have been putting off for a long time? Will we have enough oil to fire our courage to seek help from a spouse, from a friend, a professional, to deal with the problem that we haven't been able to handle ourselves? Will we have enough oil to energize us, to bridge a gap, to seek forgiveness before a once warm relationship dies from the chill? And so Jesus sort of says, there's no pinch hitters out there for us to step up to the plate, to hit for us when life throws curveballs at us, which is often. So yes, of course, we can turn to others for help and guidance, but each of us is accountable and responsible ourselves for how things are between us and God, how things are between us and others. We can't borrow someone else's good deeds to join the procession to the wedding feast. And we heard that in the first reading today, a beautiful reading from Wisdom. Wisdom is found by those who seek her, by those who keep vigil, who do the work necessary to discern and to grow in spiritual wisdom. And Jesus said that wisdom consists in putting his words into practice. So the wise young woman's oil symbolized their store, their reserve of experience in living a life connected to God, living a life of the gospel. Their discipleship prepared them to enjoy the party that was to come. Living the gospel isn't like hoarding oil or packing a backpack. It's more like, you might say, riding a bike or learning a new language or being generous. You practice until it becomes natural. So for the foolish ones to say, lend us some of your oil of preparation, was as crazy as saying, give me a bit of your balance, so that I can ride this bicycle. Doesn't work that way. There are some things every person must do for themselves, and no amount of example from others can substitute or make up for their lack of action. So the future is now. There comes a time when the door is closed. That runs counter to our hope for unlimited options and opportunities and chances, but there comes a moment when the moment of grace passes. We never know how long the delay will be before we come to the final hour. And so the message, I think, today from Jesus is stay calm, carry on, but be prepared. Coming to church, staying calm, carrying on, no matter what life throws at us, is an important segue to entering the banquet of life. So expect a delay, and then the announcement, but don't get discouraged. Just be as prepared as possible for what is to come, because, well, you might say, like the motto of the New York State Lottery, hey, you never know.